Good morning. This morning I'm going to recite a couple of healing prayers. This one is for infants. It's for my granddaughter who's sick. Thou art he, O my God, through whose names the sick are healed, and the ailing are restored, and the thirsty are given drink, and the sore vexed are tranquilized, and the wayward are guided, and the abased are exalted, and the poor are enriched, and the ignorant are enlightened, and the gloomy are illumined, and the sorrowful are cheered, and the chilled are warmed, and the downtrodden are raised up. Through thy name, O my God, all created things were stirred up, and the heavens were spread, and the earth was established, and the clouds were raised and made to rain upon the earth. This verily is a token of thy grace unto all thy creatures. I implore thee therefore by thy name, through which thou didst manifest thy Godhead, and didst exalt thy cause above all creation, and by each of thy most excellent titles and most august attributes, and by all the virtues wherewith thy transcendent and most exalted being is extolled, to send down this night from the clouds of thy mercy the rains of thy healing upon this suckling, whom thou hast related unto thine all-glorious self in the kingdom of thy creation. Clothe him then, O my God, by thy grace, with the robe of well-being and health, and guard him, O my beloved, from every affliction and disorder, and from whatsoever is obnoxious unto thee. Thy might verily is equal to all things. Thou, in truth, art the most powerful, the self-subsisting. Send down, moreover, upon him, O my God, the good of this world and of the next, and the good of the former and latter generations. Thy might and thy wisdom are verily equal unto this. And now I'm going to recite the long healing prayer by Bahá'u'lláh. He's the healer, the sufficer, the helper, the all-forgiving, the all-merciful. I call on thee, O exalted one, O faithful one, O glorious one. Thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O sovereign, O upraiser, O judge. Thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O peerless one, O eternal one, O single one. thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O most praised one, O holy one, O helping one, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O omniscient, O most wise, O most great one, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O clement one, O majestic one, O ordaining one, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O beloved one, O cherished one, O enraptured one, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O mightiest one, O sustaining one, O potent one, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O ruling one, O self-subsisting, O all-knowing one, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O Spirit, O light, O most manifest one, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O thou frequented by all, O thou known to all, O thou hidden from all, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O concealed one, O triumphant one, O bestowing one, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O Almighty, O succoring one, O concealing one, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O fashioner, O satisfier, O uprooter, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O rising one, O gathering one, O exalting one, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O perfecting one, O unfettered one, O bountiful one, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O beneficent one, O withholding one, O creating one, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O most sublime one, O beauteous one, O bounteous one, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O just one, O gracious one, O generous one, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O all-compelling, O ever-abiding, O most knowing one, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O magnificent one, O ancient of days, O magnanimous one, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O well-guarded one, O Lord of joy, O desired one, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O thou kind to all, O thou compassionate with all, O most benevolent one, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O haven for all, O shelter to all, O all-preserving one, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O thou succorer of all, O thou invoked by all, O quickening one, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O unfolder, O gatherer, I call on thee, O unfolder, O ravager, O most clement one, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O quencher of thirsts, O transcendent Lord, O most precious one, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O greatest remembrance, O noblest name, O most ancient way, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O most lauded, O most holy, O sanctified one, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O unfastener, O counselor, O deliverer, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O friend, O physician, O captivating one, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O glory, O beauty, O most bountiful one, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O the most trusted, O the best lover, O Lord of the dawn, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O enkindler, O brightener, O bringer of delight, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O Lord of bounty, O most compassionate, O most merciful one, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O constant one, O life-giving one, O source of all being, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O thou who penetratest all things, O all-seeing God, O Lord of utterance, thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O manifest yet hidden, O unseen yet renowned, O onlooker, sought by all. Thou the sufficing, thou the healing, thou the abiding, O thou abiding one. I call on thee, O thou who slayest the lovers, O God of grace to the wicked. O sufficer, I call on thee, O sufficer. O healer, I call on thee, O healer. O abider, I call on thee, O abider. Thou, the ever abiding, O thou abiding one. Sanctified art thou, O Lord my God. I beseech thee by thy generosity, whereby the portals of thy bounty and thy grace were opened wide, whereby the temple of thy holiness was established upon the throne of eternity, and by thy mercy, whereby thou didst invite all created things unto the table of thy bounties and thy bestowals, and by thy grace, whereby thou didst respond in thine own self with thy word, yea, on behalf of all in heaven and earth, at the hour when thy sovereignty and thy grandeur stood revealed, at the dawn time when the might of thy dominion was made manifest. And again do I beseech thee by these most beauteous names, and by these most noble and sublime attributes, and by thy most exalted remembrance, and by thy pure and spotless beauty, and by thy hidden light in the most hidden pavilion, and by thy name, cloaked with the garment of affliction, every morn and eve, to protect the bearer of this blessed tablet, and whoso reciteth it, and whoso cometh upon it, and whoso passeth around the house wherein it is. Heal thou then by it every sick, diseased, and poor one, from every tribulation and distress, from every loathsome affliction and sorrow, and guide thou by it whosoever desireth to enter upon the paths of thy forgiveness and grace. Verily thou art the powerful, the all-sufficing, the healing, the protector, the giving, the compassionate, the all-generous, the all-merciful. I am going to say the tablet for the Northeastern states by Abdu'l-Bahá. O thou kind Lord, praise be unto thee, that thou hast shown us the highway of guidance, opened the doors of the kingdom and manifested thyself through the sun of reality. To the blind thou hast given sight, to the deaf thou hast granted hearing. Thou hast resuscitated the dead. Thou hast enriched the poor. Thou hast shown the way to those who have gone astray. Thou hast led those with parched lips to the fountain of guidance, and thou hast suffered the thirsty fish to reach the ocean of reality, and thou hast invited the wandering birds to the rose garden of grace. O thou Almighty, we are thy servants and thy poor ones. We are remote and yearn for thy presence. Our thirst for the water of thy fountain are ill, longing for thy healing. We are walking in thy path and have no aim or hope save the diffusion of thy fragrance, so that all souls may raise the cry of, O God, guide us to the straight path. May their eyes be open to behold the light. May they be freed from the darkness of ignorance. May they gather around the lamp of thy guidance. May every portionless one receive a share, and may the deprived become the confidants of thy mysteries. O Almighty, look upon us with the glance of mercifulness. Grant us heavenly confirmation. Bestow upon us the breath of the Holy Spirit, so that we may be assisted in thy service, and like unto brilliant stars, shine in these regions with the light of thy guidance. Verily thou art the powerful, the mighty, the wise, and the seeing. Okay, I'm going to take a little break here because it turns out that my phone, through which I am broadcasting through Facebook, is out of juice, so I need to plug it in. So I will be back. I hope you'll join me.